Welcome to the presentation about framing in computer communication. To start with, what is framing? Framing is nothing but it's a point-to-point connection between two computers or devices consisting of a wire where data is transmitted as a stream of bits. Here, these bits must be framed into discernible blocks of information. While considering framing, it is a function of data link layer. The data transmission involves the synchronized transmission of bits from the source to the destination in the physical layer. And in this slide, I'll be focusing on the process of framing, the types of framing, how framing occurs in the data link layer. If you consider the data link layer, it receives the packets from the network layer and then adds source and destination addresses to the packets. They are then converted into frames in the data link layer. When the frame size becomes large, a packet is divided into small frame, and these smaller sized frames enable error control and flow control more efficiently. Here, the framing uses frames to send or receive the data. If you consider the example in the diagram, two devices are connected together with the adapters at both the end. Let us try to understand the framing concept from the below diagram. Here, the adapter will be sending the data into signals which will flow through the cable and will be received by the physical layer of other devices. The data link layer packs the bits into frames such that each frame is distinguishable from the another. Also, the data link layer prepares a packet for transport across the local media by ensuring the encapsulating with a header and a trailer to create a frame. Here, usually the frame moves bit by bit serially, and it consists of a trailer field and header field which actually frames the information. Coming to the various parts available in the frame, it is given as frame header, payload field, flag and trailer. Actually 4 parts available. While considering the frame header, it is nothing but it consists the frame's source and destination address, whereas the payload field contains the message to be delivered to the receiver, and the flag is actually having the points to the starting and the ending of the frame, and the trailer contains the error detection and correction bits. Here, the physical layer doesn't know anything about the frames. It takes the individual bits and converts them into equivalent signals before sending them. Now, the receiving device's physical layer has to convert these bits into frames, but certain problems will be there associated with it, and they are nothing but the challenges in framing. For example, if you consider the sending device sends 100 bits of data, out of which 50 bits belong to frame 1, and the receiving device receives all the bits, how will the receiver know that up to 50 bits belong to the frame? Here, the solution is some protocols are defined between devices before beginning with the communication and the data exchange. Let the both devices agree the frames start and end will be 11011, that is it added with the header and the trailer. The frame received by the receiving device will look like this. Start and end frames will be added with the data, so that it will be given as 11011 at the start as well as 11011 at the end. So thereby this challenge can be addressed. Also, there is another problem associated with the frame, that is, the frame that is received contain a part that resembles the start and the end of the frame. So, in the data itself, it will have 11011 as the data bit. Now, the receiver will consider only these bits and stops at 11011 where it is available in the data itself. Before the resembling part will not be considered as a part of the frame. So, this is known as framing error, and this will be addressed by adding, stuffing and unstuffing the data. So, before going into the byte stuffing and bit stuffing, let us see what are the types of framing available, and it is divided into two types like fixed size framing and variable size framing. Considering the fixed size framing, in this type of framing the size of the frame is actually fixed and hence the frame length acts as delimiter of the frame, and this framing doesn't require any additional boundary bits to identify the frame's start and end. So, how to know with this fixed size framing is, we'll take an example. Suppose if a device is sending 200 bits of data and the 50 bits of frame size is fixed, then after receiving the 50 bits of data, the receiver will automatically know that the next 50 bits are of frame 2 and so on. So, thereby we can avoid the confusion and there is no need of start and end frame, end bit to distinguish. This fixed size framing has a drawback, which is nothing but it goes through internal fragmentation when the data size is less than the frame size. So, to overcome that, we have the solution padding, which will be discussed in next video. Coming to variable size framing, the size of each frame to be transmitted may vary. Hence, the additional mechanisms are kept to mark the end of the frame and start of the next frame. For example, it is possible that out of 200 bits of data, 100 bits constitute frame 1, 25 bits constitute frame 2 and the rest bit constitutes the third frame. Here, we have two ways that are used to define the frame delimiters, that is start and end of the frame in variable size framing. So, this will enable the efficiency of variable size framing. And coming to framing approaches, we have three main approaches available. First one is bit oriented framing, second one is byte oriented framing, and the third one is clock based framing. The bit oriented framing is one where it views the frame as a collection of bits, the data transmitted as a sequence of bits that can be interpreted as text and multimedia data in the upper layer. And in the bit oriented protocol, it is high level data link control. It is a data link layer protocol. Here the frame format is defined as given in the figure along with the bits. So, it has flag, header part, trailer part along with the data from upper layers, and it is having variable number of bits. So, here the beginning and ending sequence, that is 8 bits, are added at the start and end of the frame in this protocol are 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. So, 0 consecutive 6 ones and then 0. So, these bits are also transmitted when the link is idle to synchronize the clock. Here, to detect the errors in this particular approach, we are using cycle redundancy check CRC. Here, for example, consider the frame to be sent and received by the devices be 0 followed by 6 consecutive ones, then 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, and then consecutive 6 ones and then 0, 0 and consecutive 6 ones, then again finished with a 0. If you notice this frame, it contains a part similar to the beginning in its body as we discussed before. So this can be addressed with the help of bit stuffing. How we will do bit stuffing in this particular data means, whenever the sender device finds the frame consisting of 5 consecutive ones, it will stuff a 0 bit. So this is how it looks like. So after After 5 consecutive ones, it's stuffed with a 0 here, and then the remaining bits will be accompanied. Then again after 5 consecutive ones, another 0 bit will be stuffed. So 2 extra bits will be associated in this frame. So when the receiving device receives this frame and encounters a 0 after 5 consecutive bits, it will remove it to maintain the original frame. So at the beginning, the data from upper layer will be stuffed according to bit stuffing technique. So 2 extra bits will be added in the data, and that will be sent to the receiver. When the frame is received, it checks for 0 after 5 consecutive ones. If it is there, it will unstuff it, and then by removing the extra zeros, the original data will be retained to the upper layer. So this is how the bit stuffing and unstuffing is happening. The next approach is byte oriented approach. It views the frames as a collection of bytes, that is 8 bits, also known as a character, and hence it is also termed as character oriented approach. So here the data from upper layer consists of variable number of characters. So this is how a frame in a character oriented protocol looks like. If you consider the byte stuffing and unstuffing, it will be done with the help of byte oriented protocols, that is binary synchronous communication protocol, digital data communication message protocol, and point to point protocol. So in the first way of byte stuffing, the binary synchronous communication protocol, it is a sentinel approach. Here the special starting character SYN, that is synchronous, and at the end of the text ETX will be associated in order to differentiate the frames from one to another. Whereas in the point to point protocol, if it is used for byte stuffing, here the bit pattern for the flag will be addressed with consecutive 6 ones. In that, if the system focuses with consecutive 6 ones, then this after 5 consecutive ones, the next bit will be replaced with a 1 instead of 0. Here it will be replaced with 1, and at the receiver side, the frames will be unstuffed to remove the extra 2 bytes, and then the original data will be retained to the upper layer. So this is how the protocols, the byte stuffing and unstuffing will work. And the third model is the clock based framing. It is nothing but it is used in the optical networks such as SONET. In this approach, a series of repetitive pulses maintain a constant bit rate and keep the digital bits aligned in the data frame. Coming to the next topic, flow control in data link layer. The flow control is actually the management of data flow between the computers or devices or between nodes in a network so that the data can be handled at an efficient pace. The flow control is actually refers to a set of procedures used to restrict the amount of data that the sender can send before waiting for an acknowledgement. This can be explained in 3 ways. One is simplest protocol, second one is stop and wait, and the disadvantages in stop and wait can be overcome by the sliding window protocol. If you go with the simplest protocol, the one where the sender starts sending the data frames to the receiver, but it will not wait for any acknowledgement from the receiver. Simply the data will be sent from the sender to the receiver without waiting for acknowledgement. So it is one side transmission from the sender to the receiver. So this diagram will explain how the simplest protocol will work. So sender A sends the frame to the receiver. After arrival at the receiver side, the receiver is not sending any acknowledgement back to the sender, whereas immediately the sender A sends the next frames to the receiver B at regular interval of time. Next protocol is stop and wait protocol. In stop and wait protocol, the procedure of sending the frames from the sender to the receiver is actually done in this way. So the sender sends a frame from sender to the receiver and it waits for an acknowledgement from the receiver side. If you notice, the data frame from the sender is actually given to the receiver side. After receiving this from the receiver side, it will send an acknowledgement frame back to the sender. So once the receiver sends the acknowledgement frame and it is received at the sender side, then only the server understands that the receiver is ready to accept the next frame. So after that, the sender will send the next frame in the queue. So this is how the stop and wait protocol works. This diagram explains stop and wait protocol procedure in a clear picture. So if you consider, the sender A actually sends a frame to the receiver. After receiving it, the receiver sends an acknowledgement back to the sender. Once the acknowledgement is arrived, after that only the second frame from the sender A will be sent to the receiver. After receiving the second frame, again another acknowledgement for this frame will be sent back to the sender. So this is how stop and wait protocol. Coming to the sliding window, this protocol helps in improving the efficiency of stop and wait protocol by allowing multiple frames to be transmitted before receiving an acknowledgement. So the working principle of this protocol can be described as follows. Both the sender and the receiver has finite sized buffers. So this is finite sized buffers available with both sender and the receiver. The sender and the receiver agrees upon the number of frames to be sent based upon the buffer size. So the sender sends multiple frames. For example, here if you consider frame 0 and frame 1, both are sent to the receiver side without waiting for an acknowledgement for the first frame. So when its sending window is filled, it waits for acknowledgement. On receiving the acknowledgement, it advances the window and transmits the next frame according to the number of acknowledgements received. So if you see here, frame 0 and frame 1 sent to the receiver side. Without waiting for an acknowledgement, it actually sends multiple frames to the receiver side. Once its buffer is filled with, then it waits for an acknowledgement. Once the acknowledgement received, it advances the window and transmits the next frame according to the number of acknowledgements received. So frame acknowledgement 2 received, then frame 2 is sent, then acknowledgement 3 is received, after that frame 3 is sent. So like that, multiple frames in a sequence will be sent from the sender to the receiver without waiting for an acknowledgement. So this is how sliding window protocol helps to overcome to improve the efficiency of the stop and wait protocol. So thank you. With this, I just complete the presentation of framing and flow control in data link layer. That is with end here. Thank you for listening this video.